What is China up to? China has been doing some outrageous things in recent times, such as claiming that India hasn't landed on the moon's south pole, boycotting iPhones on government level to get revenge on the USA, who recently banned the Chinese electronics brand Huawei. And Chinese citizens are apparently also boycotting newer versions of the iPhones because they are trying to belittle India by making statements such as, "The iPhones stink of curry." They are faking live and international events at an embarrassing level, and last but not least, bringing suspicious packages into other countries. The false accusations. Ouyang Ziwan is a Chinese researcher who claims that India's landing on the south pole of the moon is fake and that Chandrayaan-3 didn't even land close to the south pole of the moon. Even though NASA and the European Space Agency said that India has landed on the south pole of the moon, China chooses to contradict this fact.
A top Chinese scientist is disputing India's claim. His name is Ouyang Ziwan. He's considered to be the father of China's lunar program. So he's one of the best that they have. And what is he saying? That India did not land on the South Pole. In fact, let me quote his statement. The landing site of Chandrayaan-3 is not at the lunar South Pole, not in the lunar South Pole region, nor is it near the lunar South Pole region. Then where is it? Now this could get complicated. So listen closely. Like the Earth, the moon also has latitudes. These are imaginary horizontal lines that run across the surface. Now let's apply this to the moon as well. Where did India's Chandrayaan land? At 69 degrees south latitude. The Chinese scientist says this is not the South Pole region. Then what is? NASA chief said India landed on the lunar South Pole. So did the European Space Agency. Then why is China playing spoilsport?
Discouraging the sales of their most beloved phone. The Chinese government is reportedly making government officials and state-owned enterprise workers boycott iPhones due to the banning of the Chinese brand Huawei by the American government. Another reason why the people of China are boycotting iPhones is due to the fact that Apple has started to assemble their iPhones in India. Many Chinese netizens have been making derogatory statements such as to look for the curry smell while unboxing their iPhone to find out if they are made in India. They also have been making claims that iPhones made in India are unhygienic because Indians don't use toilet paper.
Apple now produces iPhones in India, and the Chinese don't like it. Look at one comment on their social media. This is what it says. Let's tear off the packaging and savor the aroma of curry. How original, curry in India. Some Chinese citizens are also discussing how to identify a made in India iPhone. You heard one theory, check for the curry smell. Another theory is that Indian iPhones are dirty. Why? Because Indians do not use toilet paper. What does this racist meltdown really tell you? For starters, it's a case of anxiety and bitterness in China. This episode shows a lack of familiarity because Chinese people do not know the reality of India. Just consider this iPhone controversy. Some Chinese users said India was a country in Southeast Asia. Blame Chinese propaganda for this. In the last 2 decades, China was a shiny new economy everyone wanted to make in China, but now companies are heading out. Intel, Microsoft, Nike, Dell, Apple. And where are they going? To friendlier shores, including India. Reports say China is cracking down on iPhones. First, they asked central government employees to not use Apple iPhones. Why is that? Well, in typical Chinese style, no reason was given. Well, in public, they're saying the same things, that foreign companies are still welcome in China. Listen to this.
China has always been determined to promote a high level of opening up to the outside world. Products and services from any country are welcome to enter the Chinese market as long as they comply with and meet the requirements of Chinese laws and regulations.
But clearly that's not the case, because this move goes beyond just the partial ban. It's about sending a message, a tit-for-tat message. In 2019, the US targeted China's flagship company, Huawei. It was sort of blacklisted. Washington told American companies, do not supply to Huawei if you must take permission from us. And this decision hampered Huawei's growth. It lost out on revenue worth $12 billion. So now China is taking revenge. What the US did to Huawei, China is trying to do to Apple.
Live event scandal. The opening of the Asian Games were held in Hangzhou Olympic Sports Center Stadium. Live viewers who were watching either from or outside the arena were promised fireworks and a grand drone light show. Computer-generated images were televised, but in reality, nothing happened. The viewers at home, however, got to see an amazing event put on by the Chinese government.
But in reality, it was all fake. None of it was real.
这玉鸟的造型同样来自于良渚文化。
This person who lives next to the river and stadium where the opening ceremony was taking place was watching a spectacular event put on by the Chinese government on live news. But when he peered out of his window, there was not even a single firework or drone in the sky. Suspicious baggage. The Chinese delegation had brought a suspicious package before the start of the G20 summit in India this year. This baggage was described to be strange and oddly shaped by security in their routine security check-in. However, as the bags were labelled as diplomatic baggage, they were exempted from any sort of checking. But on receiving information from hotel staff that they have seen some suspicious equipment in the Chinese delegation's room, the Indian security team had requested them to get the bag checked, if not physically, then at least get them scanned under an X-ray machine, similar to the ones used at airports. However, they refused this, so the Indian security team stood outside their rooms until the Chinese decided to move it to their embassy to avoid any further investigation.
Now let's talk about the India-China standoff. No, I'm not talking about the one at the border. This was a standoff during the G20 summit. It happened at a 5-star hotel, the hotel where the Chinese delegation was staying. They were at the Taj Hotel in New Delhi. It played host to many elite delegates, like Brazil's President Lula da Silva. And Brazil, you know, is the next host of the G20. So important delegations stayed in this hotel. The Chinese delegation was at the same hotel. And they threw a lot of tantrums, so much so that their actions led to a tense face-off. Members of the Chinese delegation arrived on Thursday, and this was an advance team. The Chinese premier reached New Delhi a day later, that is on Friday. Now, Friday, of course, was the day before the summit was about to begin. So before the premier came, some of his team was already here. They were put through a security check, which is routine procedure. Everyone goes through this for their own safety. In this case, the hotel security team noticed some bags. Reports say they looked unusual. Their dimensions seemed off. But they were labeled as diplomatic baggage. Now, Indian security officials were also present. They too saw the bags and they let them go. This was as per protocol. A diplomatic bag, also known as a diplomatic pouch, is like a container. It is used by countries to send documents or messages, sometimes even some articles or things. And this diplomatic bag or pouch is protected under the Vienna Convention, no matter the urgency. No other country can open this bag. No other country is allowed to take a look inside. And Indian officials followed this rule. The Chinese officials took the bags to their rooms, and soon after that, the Indian side got a complaint. A hotel staffer saw one of these bags. This person had gone inside the room and came out worried. So a report was filed. This staff member filed a complaint. They said there was, quote unquote, suspicious equipment inside the bags. And that's when the Indian officials swung into action. The security team approached the Chinese delegation. They knocked on the doors of their hotel room. This time they asked for a closer look. They wanted to put the bags inside a scanner, a bit like the baggage scan that you see at airports. Such suspicious baggage shall not be transported until and unless the doubts are cleared to the satisfaction of the security staff. So that's all that the security officials wanted to do, put the suspicious bag through a screening. China did not allow it. They put their foot down. They refused to allow any checks. And this led to a standoff. The Chinese delegation refused to cooperate and Indian officials refused to budge. They said they want to check the bags, not open them, just scan them. And this drama went on for 12 hours. Ultimately, the Chinese side came up with a way to evade scrutiny. They dispatched these bags to the Chinese embassy. And here we must praise the Indian team. Despite the pressure from the Chinese side, they held their ground. They pushed China to be transparent. A 3-member team stood outside the delegation's room. They remained outside for 12 hours. They left only when China decided to send the bags to the embassy. So what was China trying to hide in these bags? Why did they block the security check? Well, that remains a mystery. The suspicion is that the Chinese side had brought a jamming device or equipment used to communicate privately. In fact, the Chinese delegation was quite paranoid about this, about securing their communications. They even demanded a separate and private internet connection. This request was declined.
I would like to share with you another revolting thing about China and its people. In the next video, you will see people gathering gutter oil. Gutter oil is a type of cooking oil recycled from the gutter, household drains and grease traps. Using gutter oil is a common practice amongst street vendors in China. Our recommendation to China is to work on their own personal hygiene and their wet markets instead of poking their nose into India-made iPhones.
This is gutter oil being collected. If you've visited or lived in China, you have eaten gutter oil. What you see here is a restaurant worker straining out used chili oil from a trash can. This is being collected to be reused for the next customer who orders spicy hot pot. This man is confronted and asked, do you not have family you care about? I understand it's difficult to make money these days, but how would you feel if your elderly parents, your children and relatives ate this poison? To which he replied, you're right, I'll be on my way.
There is a Chinese proverb which is 能骗就骗, which translates to, if you can cheat, then cheat. This is their code that they live by. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe.